Hi everybody and welcome to SA Rugby Magazine and the latest on the British and Irish Lions tour. I've got Scott Gibbs with me, Scotty, and Mark Keohane. No introduction needed. Some news out of the Bok camp with Lut de Jager not being so well.
Yeah, big disruption, and we keep on talking about the uniqueness of this tour. Lut taking full part in Sunday's training session, returned a positive test. I believe he's not well, so it's not just a player who's got who's positive and he's still functional. Everyone in quarantine for 2 days, and it really throws out the dynamic of the week. At the moment, the test is going ahead on Friday night. By the time you kind of see this, it may have been postponed to Saturday or Sunday. There's obviously enough players to let the test go ahead, but it's something that we've been wary of the whole tour, and it can change at any minute. And the condensed nature of the scheduling means there aren't Saturdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays to kind of make up these fixtures. But yeah, a huge disruption from the box. But Scotty, I'd probably say potentially more from the Lions if any matches get postponed or cancelled.
Oh yeah, I think that's something that Gatland would have kind of had in the back of his head, and the fact that from the outset and the early injury from Alan Werners is we have to be nimble. You know, we have to be very very self-aware of, you know, the wider picture of the pandemic and how that potentially disrupts, you know, the rugby series. Obviously there's a human nature to all of this, and we can't be you know, we must be mindful that, you know, someone like you who's young and is fit and is sick at the moment, it's just, you know, that's it's difficult to swallow, because the ramifications are bigger than just maybe a postponement or a deferment, because, you know, this is a serious nature. So, but how it affects the Lions is key, because, you know, we're talking about you know, 8 games, the 3-match series, but there's a specific design on game 1, game 2, game 3, the fluid in motion, this kind of rhythm and momentum that I keep talking about, that the teams that get selected. There's almost this engineering that by the time we get to Cape Town and the Stormers, is that we know exactly where we are from a playing personnel, and who are, you know, who are going to figure in a test series, and those who that are going to be on the periphery to support them. So any potential deferment, upset, or cancellation is really going to upset the plan as it stands. But in a fluid situation, you just have to roll with the punches. But it is it's difficult to stomach on the basis that, you know, I kind of knew that we flew into a storm and arriving here to support the test series, but actually the rawness of it is pretty chilling.
Does that lend to the, you know, speculation, and more speculation, that the tour should take place now in Cape Town, especially with the mountain cases in
Well, if we're talking on the fluid nature, and, you know, that the COVID cases are permeating in the Western Cape as well, why don't we take it back to the UK? You know, I mean, if it means that much to us, or the commercial aspect means that much to the commercial partners. But listen, I think it's
yeah. Look, the logistics behind the tour and all that kind of stuff. But it's also a case, if you see the UK opening up everything now from the 19th, you're looking at your test window was till August. The complication with the box is they play Argentina a week after the third test, then they're into the Rugby Championship. So the straight flip to September is not possible unless you send a B team over for the Rugby Championship. So we want the Lions series. So, you know, it was one of the great...
It's probably worth considering in terms of the amount of money that's at stake, Mark.
No, without a doubt. It's one of the great travesties that when we knew the potential of the situation here, that there wasn't the guarantees they could get from the UK government
at that time.
Yeah. Even though all the talk was that by end of July you would have people back in stadium. That I think you're going to see them bite the bullet and say there are no crowds. It is what it is. We're going to have to play it here, unless we have a situation where in these warm-up games, because it's one thing to protect the box, it's another thing to protect the Lions, but these teams they're playing are coming into a bubble, and they've been based there for 3 or 4 days, and they're playing. There's no guarantee, there's no bulletproof.
It's a bubble, really, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no bulletproof thing to say someone can't get ill. It may be someone who's ironing your shirt.
Well, when you look at the way that the NBA had what they called a bubble, that was a bubble.
Yeah, they were based in Orlando. You know, it was just
You had to. There was no one allowed in and out without quarantining, and so that was a real bubble. But if we think that we're talking about the same sort of protocols here, you're dreaming. No one's being isolated. I mean, these people that are working at the hotels and the service industry, they're not being.
Look, but I mean, it's you take for example, the Bulls play on the weekend, so they go in. My understanding is they only go in. They've had some COVID cases. They've got to look at the depth of their squad. They haven't gone into the hotel in Pretoria just yet. But when they do go into that hotel, we don't know that one player who tests negative when he goes into the hotel may show signs by the time Saturday comes. He infects a Lions player. That Lions player takes it back because that's the knock-on effect. Yeah. And then only next Tuesday do 5 Lions players go down. So if you were just saying it's that 40 and that 40 and they don't leave their hotels, they only go to the training grounds and they play against each other and they go back to their bubbles. But there's always that 10% that anyone could be infected, and it's no one's fault. It just is what it is at the moment. But I think from a tour perspective, the Boks have been based in Bloemfontein for 3 weeks. They've now been based in Johannesburg. They kind of know what their 40 is. They know where their core 23 are. Any form of disruption is still manageable. But from Warren Gatland's point of view, their whole test series is designed on these first 4 matches. The first 5 matches plus the Japanese match. He gets any disruption, I think it's hugely...
well, it's vital exposure from his own kind of, quality of expertise. And, the playing staff, it's all been micromanaged to engineer the performance, the periodization from a sports and conditioning perspective is all about to be peaking in the last three games. So it has a huge impact on preparation for certain. But let me ask you this, Mark: listen, if Saturday's bowl game potentially gets cancelled, I mean, are we talking about a game being just taken out of the calendar, or will they have to field a side to face the Lions? Look, such as the commitment.
Look, my thing is that you would have to just send a side out there, and because it's not so much about the Bulls now, it's about the Lions. They need that hit up. Yeah. And so if you sent a varsity cup team out there and they took 80, so be it. But I don't think you can take the schedule out, stick it at the back end of the tour, because Gatland may say, I'm not really interested in playing a midweek game between Test 1 and 2. No, I just want my boys to get 80 minutes in the Highveld, 60 minutes in the Highveld, and you've got 100 players in your union, find 23 to play against us.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Tonga, New Zealand, I mean, that's what happened there, wasn't it? That Tonga wasn't Tonga's team.
No, the 30 players, they couldn't get to New Zealand. So they were all based in Europe and quarantine and all that. Yeah. They picked 13 club players and took 100. But the fact that the All Blacks will still say they got value out of the game because they played with structure and their shape, they worked on certain things. I think for the purpose of the tour, you would have to say, if there's nothing wrong with the Lions, find a team that can play them that's not going to potentially put them at risk. Their whole thing would be that most of their squad is infected, and that would put the Lions at risk. That would be the only way you'd say, can they postpone it or not? But I think it must go ahead regardless.
Yeah, we're within reason, I suppose. But again, the difficulties of this tour, which we talked about at the beginning, in terms of, I think you said that.
And Kevin, they're playing out, don't they? I mean, we've all tried to avoid or evade this kind of this COVID pandemic, and whatever measure you put in place, it still kind of creeps up and bites you on the arse. And whether you say we're talking about Lude's health currently, and obviously we want to wish him all the best in his recovery, but also some of the guys who got banged up on Friday night against Georgia, is that time is running out, and if there's implications about getting treated, implications about preparation, it just keeps kicking the can down the road, and it erodes into that vital preparation time that the Boks and the Lions need going into that first test.
Look, I kind of wrote a piece in the week just applauding both sets of players and saying, when history looks back at this, we look back on the history of this, it's going to be the most unique tour, the most mentally draining and demanding tour, because again, look at the uncertainty. It's more so from a Lions side perspective, because they're gearing to make their test side by the 24th. Say the Bulls is my chance to really make a statement to Warren Gatland. I don't get to play that game. But then I could potentially play it between Test 1 and 2. Your preparation is different. Everything changes. So that uncertainty of actually going out to play and then we're not playing. or we could be going home, or the tour could still be going on, it must be massively draining on every one of those players. And I just applaud them for being in this country, being willing to come and tour, and for wanting to kind of get to Cape Town by the 24th for that first test match. I think the sacrifices that the British and Irish Lions players and the management have made has just been huge. And I do get a sense that everyone in South Africa appreciates that and understands that to give us international rugby at the moment, because everything pointed to them saying we're not coming.
Yeah, and there's been a real professional responsibility on both camps about the way they go about their business under the cloud of the pandemic, being mindful about how difficult it is for the Republic at this moment in time with increased case numbers, and also providing, because they are providing a respite for us, our ability to tune in, SuperSport, watch live test match football is brilliant. So that with that sacrifice, chapeau to them. But we just want to see everybody fit and healthy. So we see the best combination available on that first test, for the first test in Cape Town, so that we get really ramped up about the excitement level that they will bring for our pleasure.
Yeah, and I'd gladly raise a glass, but we're not allowed. So it's but you're right.
It is.
Yeah, glass of milk. Anyway, thanks guys for that. Let's hope that the Lions tour isn't disrupted, at least from a run-up point of view. Listening to Scott earlier on talk about the importance of the evolution of the tour, critical to the Lions setup. So thanks again for coming in.